Hey there, guys! Oh, damn it, I forgot my intro. Hey, hi, everybody. This is Pika here, and I'm here to present to you part 2 of Chaos Head. It is Friday, February 7th. Yes, it's been a week since I uploaded something, but yay. So, what happened last? I'm trying to do a new type of audio recording because basically it's like, I don't know, like I'm messing up on some parts, but anyway. Yeah, so where we left off last on Chaos Head was that basically we were introduced to Takumi. I openly discussed my dislike of this character, and basically, let's see, and basically where we left off was that basically Shogun showed us a photo, and we don't know what it is yet until now, so let's get started. Okay, and what leapt into my relieved sight was I don't know what that says. God damn it, how did the phrase go? I glared at my self-titled minimum attendance shift chart. Oh jeez. This looks like my schedule. Yesterday I didn't get to watch Barachu in real time, but after that I watched it on YouTube, so it wasn't a real problem. Even after watching it, something still felt wrong. What Shogun said right before I closed the chat window. It was almost as if he'd seen to the fact that I cowered in fear of God's gaze. It was too much for a mere coincidence. Maybe my personal information was leaked on ESO. Maybe it was someone who didn't like Nightheart. I thought about the different possibilities. A godlike existence like mine has many allies, but also many enemies. Well, the enemies were basically a kind of side effect of the popularity. Of course they'd be there. People who envy Nightheart's strength and popularity childishly tried to provoke me. It was just a matter of ignoring them. But this was different. The fact that I had no clue who Shogun was worried me to the point where when I logged into ESO I couldn't concentrate at all on hunting. On top of it all, today was...
最悪の日だ.
It was a school day. According to my minimum attendance shift chart, I had to go. I really didn't want to, but if I didn't go by my minimum attendance shift chart, my calculations would get messed up, and in the worst case scenario, I might have to repeat a year. That's your damn fault then. I fought off a yawn and trudged off towards school. It takes about 10 minutes to walk from my base to school. My mood sank lower soon after I started walking. My body felt heavy, it was hard to breathe, and I started to sweat. It's always like this when I go to school. Why do I have to go to school? It's such a painful event. Muttering balefully to myself, I kept moving my feet forward all the same, head down watching the asphalt's white line. I entered Shoto Park. The school was right on the other side. Housewives took their morning walks, and salarymen sat on the benches reading sports and newspapers around the park's pond. Even though Shibuya was so crowded and noisy, the park on the outskirts was quiet and perfectly fit the expression, a place for relaxation. I sat down on one of the benches, too. On the way to school, it was a habit of mine to eat breakfast while gazing at the surface of the pond, brimming with serene water. It was a nice time of year, and the trees were gradually gaining color. Today's menu was some breakfast bread I bought at a convenience store along the way. It would be enough to tide me over until night. I wouldn't normally eat lunch. No one wanted to eat lunch with a creepy otaku like me, and I had no interest in eating lunch by myself while everyone around me merrily ate together. After finishing my cream-filled bread with some Coke, I gazed listlessly up at the sky. Pretty. Somehow the skies of Shibuya always appear drab. It doesn't matter what season it is, the sky doesn't change. My parents' house was only a few stations down along a river, but there's a distinctly different feeling between there and here. That said, I kinda like the dullness of the sky, although I really don't know why. I glanced at my watch to check the time. If I didn't get going soon, I'd be late. I had to avoid that at all costs. As someone who only goes to school 2.5 times a week, I couldn't do anything to make myself stand out. In any case, it was important to just be there, kinda like the air. To safely and peacefully make it through the day without catching the eyes of the teachers or any delinquent types, and without having anyone interfere with me, that was the goal of my school life. Sounds like me, to be honest, except I actually go to school. I attend, quotation marks, Suimei Private Academy. It doesn't have much of a history. I hear that it was founded about 10 years ago. The building is neat and trim looking, and a lot of TV dramas about teaching are shot there. The uniforms were apparently designed by famous designers, so quite a few of the girls are airheads who enter the school just because they wanted to wear the uniform. Okay. It's ostensibly a prep school, but the percent of people who continue on to college is at the upper middle level. Hilariously enough, they use the blurb, "A free creative school atmosphere," as a selling point for new students, regardless of the fact that the school regulations are very strict, although the rules are in the process of becoming rules only in name. Besides, it isn't entirely off the mark to describe it as a free creative school atmosphere, I guess. After all, someone like me, he only comes 2.5 times per week and keep rising to the next grade like anyone else. As might have been expected, when I reached the front of the school, the other students on the way there started getting noisy. But since I'm not so good with crowds, I hunched over as I passed through the school gates. In my heart, I went on fervently reciting, "No one talked to me, no one talked to me," over and over. My little sister, who's 1 year younger, goes to this school too, but she lives with my parents. A day when I run into her is a tragic day indeed. God, that's mean. It's like, I hate my little sister. Luckily, today I managed to get to my classroom without encountering her in one piece. I quickly took my seat so as not to meet anyone's eyes. I had the feeling that the group of girls chatting nearby tossed me a look, but it was only for a second, and they went back to their conversation without saying anything. They deep down they viewed me as a creep, no doubt about it. From my point of view, 3D girls are far more creepy. It's fine by me if they think I'm a creep. If they don't notice I'm here, all the better. If they just do that, then I'll go on living in silence without giving them any trouble. I often wonder what's wrong with the people who call me creepy. I don't get it. It almost seems like they want the attention of the people they're calling creeps. I was in my seat, just hunched over my desk, staring at its surface.
Yo, Taku.
I like this character who comes up. Ah! Suddenly, someone smacked me lightly on the back. It startled me, and I raised my head. Yes! Oh man, I love this character because basically it's like he's just one of the few people that I do like in this game.
Misumi-kun.
My classmate Misumi Daisuke-kun was giving me a grin. He was pretty good looking and all the girls seemed to like him. He himself openly declared how much he liked women, and for him to say that he was dating several people at once, from my perspective, he was a guy who jumped fully into a delinquent territory. If possible, I'd have preferred to not have any connection to him at all, but... Pretty much. Great, and I have Steam open. Son of a bitch is playing Borderlands 2. I need to get that game and join him. Oh, sorry, I thought I was voice acting this. Sorry. He was the only person in the entire class who talked to me. I wonder why he always started talking to me. Our hobbies and personalities aren't even slightly similar. It had been on my mind since we became classmates this year. If hypothetically I were a girl, I would kind of understand. But being a guy, I don't know why he talked to me. If I could, I have done so a long time ago. It was almost painful for me to talk to 3D human beings. Anxiety keeps my voice from coming out properly. Since I don't normally talk much, I can't articulate myself well through speech, and I shrink back because I'm scared I might say something stupid and be made fun of. I wish people wouldn't talk about stuff like they know nothing about. They have no clue how hard it is for me. Oh, but I'm no hikikomori. A hikikomori is someone who shuts himself up in his room 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. I'm different.
女相手に緊張するならともかく、そういう態度されると俺らホモと思われるじゃねえか。
And exactly how are you different from a hikikomori, Takumi? Oh, I just go to school. Just because you go to school does not mean you're a hikikomori. Hold up, he really doesn't like girls and he's really into guys? You idiot! He's just saying hypothetically, you dumbass. In a hurry to put some distance between us, I pulled away. I ain't having my friend touching me like that. I pulled away. I almost fell out of my chair. Flustered, I had to grab onto my desk. I don't know. Takumi's is a bit slow when he's trying to pick up on hypothetical statements.
三角君はホモなの？
え？なわけねえだろ。お前、俺の女好きを忘れたのか？
だよね。ビビった。
Oh, that's so I can't tell if Takumi's being mean or not. It's like, oh, thank God you're not gay.
ちなみに
Misumi-kun quickly checked out our surroundings, grinned and lowered his voice.
昨日このクラスの女子で3人目を落とした。誰だか聞きたいか？
いいよ、別に。
だよ、もっと興味示せよ。田中だぜ、田中。
田中って誰？
お前、もうすぐ10月だ。未だに同じクラスのやつの顔を覚えてねえのか。ま、3次元に興味ないんじゃ、それも当然か。
Exasperated, he shrugged his shoulders and let out a sigh. However, up until the present, he had never once belittled me for my hobby. That is, the fact that I love 2D characters. I will admit, part of the reason why I like Daisuke is because I love his voice actor. God, he voices so many people. I hope he's gonna be in the Mikako City Actors anime. I hope he is. If not, I'm not gonna be sad, but still. He didn't call me creepy or anything. It wasn't to his taste, so he didn't overstep himself. Looking at that side of him, he didn't seem like such a bad guy. This might have been why I unintentionally fell into conversations with him whenever he started talking to me.
これでうちのクラスの可愛い女はほぼ攻略完了だ。
And if you haven't guessed, yes, he's a pervert.
そろそろ隣のクラス守備範囲広げようかって思ってんだよ。
My hunting grounds. Maybe he isn't that good of a guy after all. If the girls overheard this, I think they'd be appalled.
D 組よ。めったに学校来ねえけど、すごくいい女がいるらしいんだよ。なんか、そういう燃えねえか。あ、お前の場合は燃えるんじゃなくて燃えだっけか。
I wish people wouldn't toss around the word moe without knowing what it means.
ま、お前の興味ねえ話はそろそろやめるか。じゃあよ、ニュージェネの話知ってる？
I like how the music just automatically stops and you hear the heartbeat. Honestly, it surprised me to hear those words coming out of his mouth. I had thought he was a person who didn't think about anything other than women. I couldn't picture him watching the news or reading the paper.
集団ダイブの事件さ。あれも噂によると殺人らしいぜ。
へえ。
マジだって書いてあったんだよ、スポ島に。
So his source was in a sports newspaper. Wouldn't that make it completely unreliable? Yeah, Takumi is thinking right for that minute. It's like, why the hell would they be talking about a supposed suicide case in the sports newspaper? Besides, I already heard that news. Not that it had caught my interest.
で、聞いて驚け。その殺人鬼が女で、しかもかなり美人だって目撃証言があんだよ。
女。
As I watched Misumi-kun tell me this excitedly, the dots finally connected. I saw why Misumi-kun suddenly started reading the sports paper, which he normally wouldn't have given the time of day. It had to do with a girl. I guess you could call this a natural development. Would he be cool with a murderer so long as she was cute? If so, what the fuck is wrong with him? Speaking for myself, I'd be okay with that if she were a 2D character, but... Misumi-kun cast his eyes at the blue sky beyond the window. His face took on a far-off look. Why is he looking like he just achieved enlightenment or something?
どんなやつなんだろうな、犯人って。本当に美人なのかな。会ってみて。
Oh yeah, if you can hear some noise in the background, that's one of the TVs. That's the TV. Damn it! I'm trying to explain this. That's the TV in the living room. My mom usually keeps it on loud, so sorry about that. If you can hear it. Just now I became certain of the fact that this is a guy who lives solely through the lower half of his body.
俺だけは殺されねえ自信があんだよな。だってほら、俺ってかっこいいだろ。いくら連続殺人鬼でも、俺みたいないい男に会ったら、コロッと惚れちゃうぜ。
You ever heard of a black widow? That's why you won't get killed. Daisuke, have you even heard of a black widow before? The frivolity of his train of thought whooshed clear over my expectations. I reeled back from the Misumi-kun who proved himself able to say such a thing breezily and without hesitation.
僕は興味ないから。
でもよ、興味ないっつったって、犯人は絶対この辺うろうろしてんだぞ。どっかですれ違ってたりするかもしんねえし。
What if Misumi-kun were the killer? No, I could certainly rule that much out, but I couldn't completely deny the possibility that it was one of the students here. If that were the case, maybe I should say I have post-traumatic stress disorder to maneuver my way into graduating even with insufficient attendance.
な、今日俺と一緒に殺人現場見に行かね。ここから歩いて行けんだってよ。まだ血とか残ってるらしいぞ。
Why the fuck would you take me to a crime scene? I had absolutely zero interest in doing so. All I wanted was to peacefully and safely take my classes, hurry up and go home, greet my Saturday, and return to the world where I can become a god.
もう小橋と長谷川は見に行ったって言ってたしよ。
I don't give a fuck what they said.
本当に興味ないんだ。
I felt bad for turning down Misumi-kun, who was getting so into it, but I couldn't go along with this. Alright, so basically, here's the core thing of the gameplay that I actually find kind of unique, is that basically, you see those two things in the upper left and right hand corners? Basically, those are what they are called illusions, or triggers, that someone who's also an avid fan of this said. Basically, common sense says that the green one is obviously the good, is basically like, and apparently in the ways of the person who I know who's an avid fan of this, is basically schizophrenic, or I should say paranoid, and the red is bad slash schizophrenic. Now basically I want to go down the first path I've always done, so let's go paranoid. So I squeezed out my voice with the intention of somehow refusing him, but he wouldn't listen.
そしたら犯人とばったり会っちゃったりしてな。犯人は犯行現場に戻ってくるってよく言うだろ。んで、次はタクがターゲットにされるんだ。死をもって罪を償え。みたいな。罪状はそうだな。引きこもってたからってことで。
Why are you telling me I'm gonna die? Of course there was no reason for me to want to see blood or anything. That kind of thing's too terrifying. It wasn't a haunted mansion type attraction or a horror film. People were being killed in real life and the perpetrators still hadn't been caught. I didn't want to go anywhere that might be even a tiny bit dangerous. Even so, I found myself wondering about the new-gen criminal's motive. Were the incidents pleasure killings by someone with a couple of screws loose in his or her head? It might be most fitting to think along those lines. Well, whatever, it had nothing to do with me. By the way, I'm also a mass murderer. Despite having killed so many, I'm treated like a hero nevertheless. Inside ESO, that is. Lol. Just because you might be a god in a video game does not mean you're gonna be Mr. Popular in real life. Get that through your head. That comparison alone is enough to prove that the 2D world is unquestionably better than the real world. In some ways that might be true, that basically, the fictional world is a lot, I should say fantasy is a lot better than the real world, but there are some things that the fantasy world can't offer that the real world can. While frantically turning down Misumi-kun's invitation, I internally pictured myself throwing one straight punch after another. A murderer, you say? I'd smash a guy like that to pieces the second I met him. By sinking into delusions like that, I was capable of killing or saving anyone. Someone who tried to enact it in real life would be a pure idiot for not thinking about the consequences. Even the new-gen killer would have to get caught pretty soon, and if it's being put in jail for several decades, they'd get executed. I wanted to tell that killer. If only you'd stuck to doing it in your imagination and left it at that. And basically, this is this is called a delusion, and basically, yeah, that is a delusion. Basically that is a delusion, and you can tell what it is by if you see those images pop up. I went out to buy dinner. I was on the road to the neighborhood convenience store I usually frequent. It's about 3 minutes from my base by foot. Familiar scenery, a filthy street. But unlike any other day, today I was attacked by the peculiar sensation I had gotten lost in a different world altogether. Although the scenery itself hadn't changed, it was as if I were setting foot in this place for the first time. Apparently this is called jamais vu. I don't know why they call it jamais vu when it's deja vu, but who cares. I've looked it up online before. Also, the rotten stench of raw garbage was floating in the air. The seepy moisture that clung to my skin was enough to make me mistakenly think it was raining. The air seemed to pace itself to me. A sound. I faintly heard the sound of something being dragged along. I stopped my feet and listened closely. The sound was coming from the depths of a narrow alley that bent away to the left of where I was standing, or so it seemed anyway. There were no street lamps and no light came from the nearby houses, which was why I couldn't quite tell what lay at the end of the road, even if I strained my eyes. To think that a place of such deep darkness could be found in modern Japan, not to mention in Shibuya, which is right up there with Shinjuku when it comes to being labeled a city that doesn't sleep. It was kind of like being in a haunted house. No, there was one aspect in which it differed conclusively from a haunted house. That was the fact that this darkness wasn't man-made. I didn't want to go there. It would be better not to go there. In my heart, I kept warning myself. But as if it were being sucked in by the sound that continued unbroken, my feet took an inexplicable step forward. The fear that something awful would happen if I kept going. My heart pounded violently, and greasy sweat poured down my forehead. Someone let forth a lovely noise. It reached my ears as a whisper. And that someone suddenly grabbed my forearm. It was so abrupt that I fell into a panic and tried to scream, but it wouldn't come out, and it took all my strength merely to expel air from my throat. Terror made me want to run away any second now, but my body wouldn't listen to me. My feet froze on the spot and wouldn't move a millimeter. The hand of the person gripping my arm. It entered my field of vision. It was deep green and thin as a mummy's, with countless veins protruding. It didn't look at all like it belonged to someone living. It truly wouldn't have been strange for me to fall on my ass right there and lose control of my bladder. Yet her voice was oddly easy in the ears, and my erupting fear steadily came under control. That low, tense voice. I slowly turned around. The first thing that flew into my eyes was the Suime Academy emblem. It's something that's sewn onto the breast of all Suime uniforms. I could tell she was a girl from the fact that she was wearing a skirt. But I didn't have the courage to look at the most important part, her face. Because she was standing closer than I expected, it took all my effort to avert my eyes. Something was wrong here. Sensing that in the corner of my head, I took a second look at my upper arm. A girl's delicate and feminine fingers were what was gripping my arm, even though all I had seen previously was a green girl hand. Who was she? Who was this girl? What kind of face did she have? What kind of face was she looking at me with? What was she doing here? Various doubts ran through my mind, but I couldn't bring myself to speak to her, so all I did was hang my head. Without my noticing it, the dragon's hand had vanished. As though they replaced what came from her body. Was the scent of blood. And that's when it ends, is when you see the TV thing.
これはいい.
What the hell? I was sitting in front of a PC monitor. I poured some coke in my mouth to suppress my exhilaration, stretched widely in my reclining chair. It was a very real-seeming flight of fancy, if I do say so myself. Plus, a high school girl with a mysterious air to her appeared in it. I thought about giving her a name and cultivating her in my imagination. I play around like this a lot. Sometimes I cast a pre-existing character such as Saratan. But I got the sense that this girl was a different type from Saratan. Whatever the case, what's great about it is that I can do whatever the hell I want in my head, whether it's set in the second or third dimensions. And all that occurs in my delusions goes according to my godly will.
次はちょっとエロ要素も.
Shut up, Takumi! I muttered without thinking, as if I were back in my base. When I remembered that I was in a net cafe, I covered my mouth. I quietly studied my surroundings. Well, it's not like anyone was listening. As I hated going out, Cafe was my sole amusement spot. It was located at the edge of Shibuya's shopping district, and as such, many of its customers were delinquent 3D girls or bleary salarymen. But all the rooms were meant for individual use, so it wasn't a problem. By the way, the room I was currently in, room 37, had been reserved for my use, and was placed in the furthest back part of the store. It was inconvenient for going to get juice refilled, but because not many people went into the nearby seats, it was relatively quiet. I went out of my way to come here once or twice a week on the way back from school, in order to log on to ESO with a different ID. In other words, it was like taking a break. Not how I was a little bit too well known. I didn't mind that, but having to be a paragon of heroic behavior day after day was pretty stressful. Oh, really? The one I use over here is a female character called Lissalot. However, Lissalot's battle history was pretty terrible. I only used her to make those around her look better in comparison. Today, too, I released my stress by playing for about 3 laid-back hours. Afterward, I chatted with my guild friends for a while, getting worked up over stupid and/or arrow topics. It was close to 9 p.m. when I left the store. Around this time of night, there tends to be an especially large number of juvie types in the shopping district. I got the urge to vomit when I saw them sitting here and there along the road like it belonged to them, or grinning crudely while eating fast food hamburgers. If I made the mistake of meeting their eyes, those imbeciles would soon react by attacking me. What savages. Nice to know you judge people. Oh, sorry. People like that aren't human beings. They're just males and females. They don't have a single fragment of social intelligence. Guys like that should go die. Seriously, they should go off and die. Coming from the guy who rarely talks to anyone is what I kept thinking, but when he got down to it, it was pointless to respond to them, so I planned to hastily remove myself from the shopping district. It took me a little out of my way, but after leaving At Cafe, it was my routine to stop by either the nearby Mangadarake or Animeite in stores. Deciding I would go to Animeite today, I headed for the subway's southern entrance. When you come this way, the number of delinquents sharply decreases. The central district was seriously chaotic. Just walking there almost made it hard to breathe. If it were possible, I wouldn't want to take a single step closer. I wanted all to get destroyed, leaving behind only At Cafe and Mangadarake. Now then, I'll trawl through the comics and doujinshi today as well. Excuse me. Come to think of it, pre-orders for the 5th Barachu DVD should be opening soon, shouldn't they? I know what I'm trying to get to the part where it's like where I can leave a cliffhanger. Oops. But but it's just taking so long, so I'm sorry for the long video. I just know it's gonna be over 40 minutes by the time I get there. Before I knew it, I was standing on the narrow street in the Maruyama area that I always used to get back to my base from Animite. I blinked multiple times. I took a peek inside my bag. Several textbooks and a gaming-enabled cell phone were the only things inside. I hadn't bought anything at Animite today, despite the fact that I always buy something there without fail. I let out a sigh and began walking again. From here it would take less than 15 minutes to get back to my base. Merely moving a little ways from the station was enough to make the dazzling lights and neon vanish, and the presences of other people grow scarce. If I had to put it one way or the other, it wasn't very active. At most I saw middle-aged couples on the way to the hotel district, and once in a while a salaryman returning to his nearby home. I had a hard time thinking that it was the same Shibuya as the shopping district, which overflowed with those delinquents. It seemed that clouds had come out now that it was night, and the moon was hidden from view, making the road darker than usual.
まただ。
Familiar scenery, a filthy street. Yet I was attacked by the peculiar sensation that I had gotten lost in a different world altogether. I can't tell if you guys can, seriously, I don't like that noise that's appearing. I can't tell if you can hear it too. Although the scenery itself hadn't changed, it was as if I was setting foot in this place for the first time. Also, the rotten stench of raw garbage was floating in the air. The seeping moisture that clung to my skin was enough to make me mistakenly think it was raining. The air seemed to pace itself to me.
いや、ちょっと待った。
When was I again referring to? When had I previously experienced Jean Maivu? Damn it, reality and my delusions were getting mixed together. Now my thoughts are starting to resemble the stereotypical analysis offered by some sketchy expert on a TV variety show, weren't they? Anyway, I was certainly experiencing Jean Maivu at this very moment. And that wasn't all. That prickling along the muscles on my neck, the sensation that someone looking down on me from heavens. It wasn't a hallucination. No matter how I sped up my pace, the gaze followed me wherever I went. Right now, someone was definitely watching me. The presence of the gaze was just that strong. I wanted to turn around, but in the end I didn't. This was a game I challenged myself with every once in a while. When I heard some small noise, even if I had the feeling that someone was watching me, I played the "it'll take more than that to make me turn around" game. If I turned around, I would lose. The visions that usually appeared in my head was when I sensed the gaze were ghosts with horrifying faces, monsters, things like that. Well, whatever the case, in these past 17 years, there wasn't a single instance of me turning around and actually finding something there. With that limited guarantee of safety attached to it, I came to enjoy the single-player mental game. I would listen carefully to the wind, raise one eyebrow, make a dubious face, try to say manga-esque lines. Because the reason I didn't turn around wasn't because I was scared or anything.
貴様、見ている
You
な。
dumbass.
その目誰の目？
That's it! Sonome no dare no me. Okay, I gotta remember that.
なんちゃって。
I had meant to make an urgent show of my own nonchalance, but before I realized it, my feet had stopped. Sensing a faint alteration in the strained air, I cowered. At some point, my face had become soaked with sweat, and my knees seemed about to start knocking. Unable to bear it any longer, I turned around. I lost the game, but there was no one behind me after all. There weren't even cars passing. What was this sense of displacement? The ringing in my ears stopped. I noticed the sound only when it stopped. Up until then, I had been hearing a sound like my ears ringing. Up until then, I completely failed to recognize the fact that they were ringing. I don't know why they put "was" there. And now I heard nothing. A silence so sudden seemed like a lie, especially smack in the middle of the city. I had the feeling that I should be able to hear any sounds out there with incredible clarity. I shut my eyes tight and focused on my hearing. But of course I heard nothing. Strange. This was really strange. Normally I would surely hear things like trains running in the distance and car horns beeping. Why? Has something gone wrong with my ears? Have I become deaf? I wanted to shout out loud. I felt like I'd go crazy if I didn't. But I couldn't do it. It was too quiet, and the thought that breaking the silence might bring about something terrible made me hesitate. A single sound unexpectedly entered my soundless world. When I glanced over at the end of the dirty road lay fallen numerous shining somethings. They were strewn about to cover the asphalt.
十字架?
The instant that I recognized them as such, my feet, which before had refused to so much as twitch, spontaneously stepped forward. Upon picking up one of the scattered crosses, I found that it was made of metal and its lengthy point sharpened into something like a needle. A stake? Or a nail? Because it was shaped strangely, I had mistaken it for a cross. I felt buoyant as I gripped the stake in my hand. I could hear it, the softly resounding sound of something other, a chilly sound, one that made the muscles of my back freeze up. It came to me at intervals. My feet wouldn't stop. I continued walking as though my consciousness were being sucked in that sound's direction. Was I being driven by morbid curiosity, or was it because I wanted someone to save me? Because I wanted to be lifted out of that soundless world? This was turning out almost like a German folk tale. How did it go? That's right, the Pied Piper of Hamelin. Over 100 children were lured away by the sound of his pipe. The sound that didn't stop. The unpleasant sound of something being hammered grew closer and closer as I continued forward. The sound was coming from the depths of a narrow alleyway to my left. If I turned the corner, I would discover its source. Why didn't I think of drawing back? The idea didn't even occur to me. It was as though I was being made to move by something outside me. So I turned the corner, and what leapt into my eyes was... And we'll finally... And we'll find that out next week. So... Alright, 41 minutes? Holy fuck. Alright, that was part 2 of Chaos Head. So in the next part we will see what the sound of being, what is that hammering sound, and who is doing that, because hell, there's no way there will be a hammering sound without someone doing something. So basically, I hope you enjoyed this part of Chaos Head. Tomorrow we're going to be going back into Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, because I actually found out that I'm not that far from grinding up to Sinister Woods, so yay! I just need to be like a couple levels from where I'm at now. No big deal. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this part of Chaos Head. I need to write my intro and I'll fucking stick it, post-it note. But yeah, Katara Shoujo will return back next week. I just in place of one of these things, but yeah. So hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in the next part. See ya!